The Titans playing host to the Falcons. A little Southern fried football as Will Levis throwing for who? Will Levis, yes. 283 yards and 4 touchdowns in his NFL debut. The Tennessee football team held off the Atlanta football team 28-23. The Titans are 3-4. They snap a 2-game skidoo. And they get the win there. Their lone home win in a 7-week span, lone home game in a 7-week span there. And they have a 3-game road swing coming up. But the Falcons, they came into this game feeling pretty good about themselves. They were smelling themselves. Atlanta was sitting in the catbird seat in the NFC South. The Falcons dropped to 1-3 on the road this season. So let us discuss the question. Is Will Levis the franchise quarterback for the Titans? I've been reading these stories from the Bleeding Heart bloggers about Will Levis as God's gift to the quarterback position. So, is Will Levis the Titans franchise quarterback? No, I'm shaking my head. No. Was he impressive? Yes. I've got Legos, demerit, and electrical wire. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. What we're going to make. They taste pretty good. They're freshly baked. So first of all, let's get this out of the way right now. The people running around like Mike the Headless Chicken who are trying to sell us on Will Levis, these people are guilty and they will go to sports take jail for premature take. It's a premature take. It's one game. It's only one game. Now, granted, Will Levis is off to a smooth start. He looked good. He had the style, right? He was on the catwalk doing the pirouette, wearing those Houston Oiler uniforms. And I ripped the Titans last week. I think it's stupid they're wearing Houston Oiler uniforms, but I'm not going to lie. They look good. They dressed for success. Those are some good-looking threads out there for the Houston football team, or the Tennessee football team masquerading as the Houston football team. I digress. Now, regardless, right, it's one performance. It's a standalone performance. So you got to slow your roll here. And I was told when I was in school, I didn't pay attention very much. That's why I got into radio. But Rome was not built in one night. The Ben Maller show is built at night, but Rome not built in one night. And this is, it's a Legos game is what it is. Meaning it's a building block for Will Levis. Put some extra mayo in the coffee, Grandma. More importantly, this is a kick in the tuchus to Mike Vrabel. If I own the Tennessee Titans, I am spitting mad with Mike Vrabel. Now, why would I be spitting mad with Mike Vrabel? I'll tell you why. Because this should have happened weeks ago. Even if Will Levis goes out there and has diarrhea all over the field, I don't care. I said, and you can go back and check the podcast, after week 1, we were in here, and I said after that 3-turnover game, bench Ryan Tannehill. The Titans lost a 1-point game to the Saints in the opener, and Ryan Tannehill was not only a quarterback, he was horrific. And the only reason Will Levis played in this game is because of injury. That's it. If you take that out, Will Levis would not have even sniffed the field in this game. And the guy was not only a quarterback, he was great. And it shows you, and I know this because I'm stubborn, but it shows you how pig-headed Mike Vrabel is, the head coach of the Tennessee football team, that you've got this absolute dog with fleas playing quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, the 31st ranked quarterback in the league. The only quarterbacks worse this year who are qualified are Danny Dimes and P.J. Walker. And yet, it took a high ankle sprain to force the hand of Mike Vrabel to get a new quarterback out there, and Will Levis. And now whether this continues, maybe it's a one-off, who knows? Beginner's luck. I'm not certainly writing in Will Levis as the starting quarterback for the next 10 years, but he was good, and certainly he gives you some hope, and you got to have a little bit of hope, and this should be a kick in the tuchus, as we said, to Mike Vrabel, who continued to roll out the rotting carcass of Ryan Tannehill, a bag of manure, and only going to Levis because of injury, and it's going to be a work in progress. He needs to be the starter for the foreseeable future in Tennessee. Let him figure things out. Give him some runway to take off. It's a short week. Tennessee plays the Pittsburgh football team this week. We imagine that Will Levis will be back out there. He is certainly not guaranteed for greatness by any means, but the guy's got a pulse, and Tannehill doesn't have a pulse. He's a corpse at this point playing quarterback. I say that with all due respect. Tannehill man. You know, Tannehill has 2 touchdowns in 6 games this season. Will Levis doubled that total in one afternoon against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, secondly, headline from the losing locker room, the Atlanta locker room, what is going on with Desmond Ridder and his status as QB1 with the Falcons? Well, needless to say, you don't need me to tell you that Ridder is in a precarious situation. He's on the side of the building, and he's hanging over the edge of the building, holding on by his fingernails to the starting job in Atlanta. Despite many public votes of confidence from the Home Depot owner, Arthur Blank, and the coaching staff, Ridder in this game was evaluated for a concussion after being sacked 5 times before halftime. It was announced that he had cleared the concussion protocol, and they benched him. The Atlanta Falcons gave a vote of no confidence to Desmond Ridder. They sat him down. That is a, say it with me now in the back of the room there, this is a demerit. Can you say demerit? Yeah, that's a demerit for the Falcons quarterback, as he has been inadequate. Actions speak louder than words, and I don't care what you tell me how great Desmond Ridder is. He has not been that. And this, by benching him, you're announcing to the world. Atlanta's passing offense has been, you know how we used to have like the run and shoot offense. There's a lot of new creative offenses. The Atlanta Falcons are going with a famine-based offense, which normally you don't go with a famine-based offense. They've been especially terrible on the road. Atlanta 27th on the road in passing offense. And Taylor Heineke, say what you want about him, and he's proven he's had opportunities and hasn't done much with his opportunities back in Washington, but much more efficient in the second half, playing behind the same flimsy offensive line. And this is a reminder for those of you that fat shame offensive linemen. It's always the offensive line's fault when a quarterback gets sacked. No, it's not, dummy. The sack is a quarterback stat, and this is a great example. As you look at that Falcon offense and Ridder running around desperately trying to save himself from getting sacked because he had no idea how to play the position at quarterback. And same offensive line, same players around him. Taylor Heineke looked much more competent in the second half of that game. The sack rate ultimately reflects the actions of the quarterback, how you read a defense, how quick you recognize what they're doing, the clarity, the decisiveness. You hold the ball for too long, you got to treat that ball like a hot potato. Get it out of your hands. All right, final thought. We head now to headline Seattle, where Jamal Adams, talk about getting your head into the game. Jamal Adams forcing an interception, a pass that deflected off the man's helmet with less than 2 minutes remaining on the game clock. 5 plays later, Geno Smith threw a little quick screen to Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he ran it 9 yards for the touchdown, 38 seconds remaining. That lifted Seattle to a 4-point win over the Cleveland Browns. So Seattle is 5-2. And if you look on your favorite tablet depth chart for standings, if the season were to end today, Seattle would be the number 2 seed in the NFC. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yes, Philadelphia would be number 1. They're 7-1, but there's Seattle 5-2, Detroit 5-2, and Dallas 5-2. And Seattle would be the number 2 seed. So you think everything's great, everything's sunshine, lollipops, everything's good to go, nothing to worry about here for the Seahawks. No! Seattle blew an early 14-point lead in this game. Now, they made enough plays to come back, and Cleveland was the headless horseman out there. They didn't have a quarterback. And so Seattle has won 5 of their last 6 games. But still, the question must be asked, because I know there's a bunch of people that are wearing the Seahawk-colored glasses here. They're delusional. They think everything's fine in Seattle. And many of them listen to this show, like you think JJ and Renton, Nostradamus, guys like that, who are delusional Seahawk fans. But how concerned should the Seahawks be with Geno Smith and his play? Even though they're winning games, Even though they're winning games, how concerned? So on the MALLER scale of concern, 1 to 10, with 10 being a tsunami, we are at an 8.0. 8.0. Woo, woo. Alarm bells are going off. 8.0. Here's why. Crying Craig's not going to like this, but the Seahawks are winning in spite of Geno Smith, not because of Geno Smith. Does that sound crazy? Maybe that does sound crazy, but Pete Carroll, he's an old school football guy. Pete Carroll knows that he needs to check himself before he wrecks himself and his football team, because Geno Smith right now has a loose electrical wire, and that is a problem, right? There is a loose electrical wire for Geno Smith, and you can deny it and sweep it under the rug all you want, but I'm right and you're wrong. There's a thingamajig that is not working for Geno Smith. The last 5 weeks, that's over a month, Geno Smith has a passer rating of 85.5, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 2 fumbles. Geno Smith is playing like the guy we thought he would play like. The guy's a bum, as our friend in Rhode Island used to say. And it's just not a sustainable formula. And that's a team, I'll tell you right now, if you're in the NFC, you want to play Seattle and Geno Smith in a playoff game. You do. Every man, woman, and child knows this. And Geno, he got to get a lot better, and I don't think he's got it in him. Like he got a minimal contract, because even the Seahawks front office, they realized what happened last year was not going to be something that can go forward long term. It was more of a fluky situation, and fluky situations are followed up by more regular occurrences, right? Back to the norm, right? Extreme outcomes are followed by more moderate ones, and that's what you're getting from Geno Smith. So Seattle, they're in an interesting box here, because they got a good record. They're 5-2, but yet you look around, you're like, well, I mean, they don't have a quarterback, and you can only go so far without a quarterback, and you're like, well, what's going to happen? And they're not going to get a high draft pick, so forget about that. Nor should they. I'm fine with them not trying to do that.